Perfect. Okay. Started. Perfect. I see there's already 12 people. So we will wait just another minute for the others to join us, and then we can start with our webinar. Perfect. The numbers are rising. Perfect. Okay, looks good. So I will just start with a quick introduction. So we're very happy to welcome you to our webinar to how to automate HR documents in SAP SuccessFactors. This webinar will be recorded, just a quick disclaimer. And first, I cannot control it anymore. Benjamin, can you jump to the next slide?
Let's see if I can jump to the next slide for you, maybe. There we go.
Perfect. Thanks. So first, a few words. I'm Christina. I'm a business technology evangelist at dox42, and I'm very excited to give this webinar together with Benjamin today.
Thank you. I'm Ben. I'm a SuccessFactors consultant and also closely tied to the HR Document Simplified product that we'll be showcasing today, based out of Oslo, work for NTT DATA.
Perfect. So next up, what's on the agenda? So first, of course, the impact of end-to-end HR document automation in SuccessFactors. We will show the automated document generation with dox42, and then also show you how to do the digital signatures and compliant archiving with HR Documents Simplified. And in the end, we have the Q&A. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please just write them in the chat, and we will come back to that in the end or follow up on that afterwards. Perfect. Over to you, Ben.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start by giving you an introduction to what this solution is. So you've probably been given some information in advance. I assume that's why you're here. And I'm quite proud actually to show you this solution that we have built. So HR Document Simplified, what is it? The main idea behind this product is that it automates and supports all the business processes which are tied to your employee documents. Many of these processes, which you probably well know, are quite manual and tedious work. And so with the solution, we've created a collection of components that, when combined, eliminates as much as possible of this manual work. It is created with SuccessFactors in mind and is therefore fully integrated. And while SuccessFactors is a great tool, it has relatively basic document handling. The three main components of our solution is document generation, which pretty much does what it says on the tin. We have document signatures, which is for following up, and it's both triggering and also following up on electronic document signatures. And then lastly, we have our HR archive, which lets you administer and store all your employee documents, as well as purge the files you no longer need. So on top of all of this, we have what we call our HR documents platform, or the post office. You can consider this the engine that drives all the data between systems, and also is managing sort of the central hub for electronic signatures. A typical use case for many of you will be that you have a need for a document of some kind within the system. That starts with a request either through Employee Central or through the recruiting module in SuccessFactors. And after a request has been made, the document will be generated automatically. It will use SuccessFactors data, and once it's created, it can be sent onwards to the post office. Again, the post office is where we handle electronic signatures. From the post office, it's sent onwards to all the individuals who we need a signature from. And once all the signatures have been collected, the document will be processed once more and finally archived in our electronic archiving solution. Here, it will be filed to the correct employee and to the correct folder, again, automatically. We'll get into the details of how this process works eventually, but to start off, we will talk about document generation. So we're going to go through this in chronological order. And Christina, who's with us, she is from dox42. dox42 is one of our most important partners for this HR document solution, and they have built the technology around document generation. So to talk about it in more detail, I'll hand it back over to Christina.
Thank you so much.
Let's see here.
Then I will quickly share my screen now. Perfect. I hope everyone can see my screen now. So thanks again. Who is dox42? A quick introduction. So we are a software for document generation and automation. With dox42, you can design your templates directly in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, so you don't need to learn any new editors. You can use the applications that you know and like. And we integrate into several platforms, among them, of course, is SAP and SuccessFactors. And as for output options, we are also highly flexible, so you can directly trigger emails, send a PDF, get a Word document back in case you want to change anything after the generation, send it to a printer, send it to DocuSign, etc., etc. So really very versatile and flexible. We have over 900 customers and over 100 partners, of which NTT DATA is, of course, one. So especially for the SuccessFactors, and our headquarters is in Vienna. A quick overview of some of our customers. Maybe there are some familiar names. And you can already see we are not limited to any industry because you need documents everywhere and you can design any kind of document with dox42. And of course, in the HR context, the classical example is the employment contract. So this is just a quick teaser. We will go into the template design into more detail in a live demo in a second, but just to give you an impression how this can look. So on the left side, you have Word with dox42 as an add-in. You see you can add your corporate design, your personal style, and then dox42 fills in all the data from the system of your choice. As I already said, you can integrate your data from various sources, among them, of course, SAP, but you can also mix and match. So even if you have data a little bit in SAP and other data somewhere else in a database, in a Microsoft system, you can mix and match and put together your documents. So that's enough with the theory. Let's jump into the template that I have prepared. So this is also an employment contract, just looks a bit different from us. And this is classical Word. You can use all the functionalities of Word that you know and like. And dox42 is an additional tab on top here. So first of all, you have to define where your data is coming from, and you do so in the data map designer. That's the button up here. And here on top, you can see a couple of the possible data sources that we offer. I don't even have all of them installed, so there is some more, but you can already see from SharePoint to SAP to SuccessFactors, you can get your data from anywhere. In this example, we have our data sitting in SharePoint just for simplicity. And of course, you have these options like filtering, sorting your data sources. You can do with the group calculator calculations, insert dynamic fields, etc., etc. So you're really highly flexible where to get your data from and also what to do with the data. Then after you have defined where your data is coming from, you have the data fields in a list here on the right. So here we have our candidate, for example, and when I say, okay, I want the employment contract for the position, for the email address of the candidate, the name, and I want the email address here once again, I just go here, email, and I drag and drop it into the template. It's as easy as that. No coding, no programming skills required. You just drag and drop the fields wherever you want them to be. And then, of course, you can also have these functions, for example, for inserting conditions. So here for our employee, there's different options, what they will get as a benefit. And as a condition, for example, if they are a trainee, they do not get a laptop or a mobile phone. So we have here the condition, if the candidate is a trainee, we exclude this paragraph. And also here, you do not have to write this. You can simply say, for this data field, again, select it here, the position, and this should be or should not be, or should be bigger, smaller, etc. And then you write your condition. So it's really straightforward, and you can also combine conditions. So maybe they are a trainee and they get a salary of a specific number, then you can combine these conditions with this logic operators. Perfect. This also allows you to include or exclude whole paragraphs. So this, for example, only applies if the salary is above 5,000. And if it's below that, this will simply be skipped. And this new paragraph will be the number 7. So you also don't have any empty spaces. This will just go right up here. And you can, of course, add any special agreements. And down here, depending on the employee, their position, we want to add another Word document to this file, to this document. So here I can say, okay, here should be another Word document in my final, in the final contract that I'm sending out. So I can say here on the right, this is a Word document that is sitting in SharePoint. And I will now click on Generate to make it a bit more understandable what I mean by that. So here now I press Generate, and here now I can also select for whom I want to make the contract for. We will take my colleague Johannes because he's a trainee, and then I can show you already the conditions that I have explained. I will scroll to the top quickly and we will look at this side by side. Here we go. So here we have the trainee. Here the table of contents we see is dynamically extended. We have the QR code that we have generated on the fly out of the email address. It's also a function of dox42. The trainee does not get a laptop or a mobile phone. Here we have no empty paragraph because it's just skipped. And down here, we have the trainee remuneration policy, which is another Word document sitting in my database. that is also inserted depending on the position of the employee. Perfect. Then, of course, this is for demo purposes that I pressed generate here. Of course, you do not always have to have Word open and press the button. dox42 also integrates into SuccessFactors directly without the end user ever having to touch the template or knowing that they're using dox42. But for this, I will give over to Ben again. I will stop sharing and you can grab the screen again.
Thank you, Christina. So can you see my screen again now?
Yes.
So thanks for that. So that's in detail how the end solution generates the output that you're typically after when you're generating a document. And as she's shown, the solution itself is extremely flexible, and you can pretty much make any type of document you may need using dox42 and the document generation module. When we're talking in a SuccessFactors context, we are referring to two main areas when talking about document generation. It's within Employee Central, typically for existing employees, or through recruitment for new candidates and applicants coming through. The document generation, so this is a screenshot from a Word file similar to what you just saw on Christina's screen. And we support, when we set up the solution, a pre-built template tool that comes with 350 SuccessFactors fields already, so that you don't have to create a data map and load everything into the template. It will read the fields that you have in your current SuccessFactors system and come pre-configured so that you can drag and drop into the template tool that you just saw. We provide some example templates when we set this up so that you can use them for inspiration. And as Christina showed, you can use a whole range of conditions to make sure that there's a smart and dynamic output, such as if the employee is in that country or in that department, then we want this text, or if they're in a different area, then we want another text. And of course, we will train you in how to build these templates, but naturally we will help you as well. So I will quickly show you in the actual system. So hopefully you can now see that I'm logged into SuccessFactors. I'm logged in here as Emily Davis. Emily Davis is the manager for this user, Caroline Aiden, in our demo system. We build some custom links from the employee profile, such as this one that says generate document, which takes me to a minimalistic UI for selecting the credentials of the data for the document that I want to create. For those of you familiar with SuccessFactors, you'll know that a lot of the data sitting in the system is what's called effectively dated. So it might have you might have a position valid from yesterday to next month, and then from next month you have a different role or a different position. That means that when we're generating documents, we might want to target data which is valid from a given time period. So in the top section here, I will select from which date we want the system to extract the information from SuccessFactors. Then we have the document type, which is just a simple drop down of the templates that have been configured and made available for the users. Then we have the languages available, and also the format. Sometimes maybe we want an editable version, so we have a Word file, otherwise PDF. Then we have our signatures, and the signatures drop down here is a customizable pre-configured process. So you might say, well, if we're generating contracts, we always want it to be the manager and the employee who signs. Then that can be a pre-configured signature process, which is selectable in this pick list here, this drop down. And that's, again, obviously it's dynamically gathered so that if we when we know who the employee is and who we're generating for, we'll also be able to go into the system and read who the manager is at the given date that we've selected. Then we have the drop down of the subject employee's emails. They might have multiple email addresses. Maybe we want to send it to their private one for whatever reason. That's the second to last option here. And then the final option is the process we want to initiate. So for the time being, I'm just going to click generate. And this will then generate in the same manner that we just saw Christina do. But instead of being from any other data source, we're now taking the information directly from Caroline Aiden's profile here in SuccessFactors. It will then combine her live data in SuccessFactors with the template that's been selected here. And I can then open it locally and get an output similar to what we just saw Christina do. So she's done already, so I'm not going to open that and show you all the details because she's just giving you an example. But that is if we want to generate it locally. We also have the option of sending it right off for signatures and archiving. If I do that, then the document is not created locally on my computer. Instead, it's uploaded to what we call a post, and it's shipped off to whoever is the first signee in the signature process that we've selected up here. The last option, which I'll now do, is to generate as a draft. We might want to do that if, say, a candidate has negotiated different terms than what the template has included. Then we might want to add a sentence or two into the document, or maybe perhaps we feel the need to add a different signee for this particular employee. Then we might want to generate it as a draft instead. So I'll do that now. And while that creates the post, I'll go back here. And I'll show you what we include as part of the setup for the home page. One tile is the archive, which we'll get to eventually. And the other one is what we call the post office. And the post office is where these generated posts end up when I've triggered the process from the employee page like I just did. So we'll get to that shortly. I'm jumping the gun a little bit. Go back to my slides, because what I would also like to mention is that we can configure the capabilities of document generation through your SuccessFactors role-based permission setup. So the inherent security system in SuccessFactors is something we can leverage also with our solution. And what that means is you can tailor specific functionality based on who you are in the system. A regular employee might only be able to say, generate their employment history or a record of that employment history. Meanwhile, a manager might be able to create contracts for their direct subordinates, but perhaps only in PDF, and they're not supposed to be able to edit them. And then lastly, maybe HR can do everything. They can generate all kinds of documents, and they can also generate them in Word format for editing purposes. So in that manner, we can tailor the UI that we just looked at to be dependent on who you are in the system. So from Employee Central, like you just saw, we have our templates, and they are connected up to the links on the employee page. We can generate it locally, like we just saw. I can potentially make adjustments if I still want to send it out for signatures, and I can also upload it into the post office, which we'll look at in a second. Or I can send it off for signatures and archiving, which is the sort of the fully automatic route, whereby the e-signature process is triggered the second I click generate. Likewise, when all the signatures are retrieved, it will again be archived automatically. From recruiting, it is very similar, except here we are generating for an applicant within the recruiting module itself. The document is uploaded to a candidate's application. And again, we can make adjustments there. We can choose which format we want the document to be created as. And we can also initiate the signature process before the employee is hired. When everyone has signed, then the document is uploaded back onto the applicant's profile in the recruiting module. It replaces the unsigned version sitting there. And on their day of hire, the document that's been signed, along with all their other application documents like their CV, for example, they are all uploaded to their new HR archive page for that employee. So the bottom line of document generation is that through this very minimalistic UI from the employee page, from here, you can trigger any of these processes, and everything else is automatic. So to bring us to the post office and the handling of e-signatures, I'll show you that shortly. Most of you are probably very familiar with what a typical e-signature process looks like. But to boil it down, we generate the document, we ship it off for signatures, and we can have up to 10 signees in any given process. We can either send them out chronologically, or we can send them out to everyone at once. That's up to you. And a completion email is sent out to everyone once the process is done. Likewise, there is a role called to be notified, and that individual, or maybe just a record-keeping email inbox, does not need to sign, but will be alerted when the process is complete. And of course, to repeat myself, the document is of course uploaded to the archive at the end. So when we trigger a process like we just did, if I go back to my SuccessFactors system, then we have a button here called the post office. So if I open that, just close down these other ones. When I open that, I get a list of all ongoing processes in the system. That is because I have an admin role towards this particular tool. Again, regulated through role-based permissions in SuccessFactors. This is completely up to you who should have this access. And each of these lines on this page relates to a specific document for any given employee. So this one that I just created now for Caroline Aiden using the Emily Davis manager, you'll see that it said draft. And if I click on it, I will get a detailed page view of the information tied to this particular process. We can see what document type it is. We can see which process has been selected. This hasn't been initiated yet, so there's no one under the next step section. But all the other key information about what's going on with this document can be tracked from here. On the far left, we can see a list of all the documents belonging to this particular employee. And poor Caroline Aiden is being used as a test rabbit quite often, so she has a lot of documents. But then we also have a segment for the signees. So here will be the list of users who are expected to sign this document. When they've done so, it will tell us when it's been signed at. The attachment itself, unsigned obviously still for the time being, sits here. And whenever an action is taken, it will be recorded in a history here for auditing purposes. On top of that, we have some actions we can take. If it had been initiated and sent off for signatures, we could potentially withdraw it. If, let's say, a candidate spends too long signing, 2 or 3 weeks, then we can say, sorry, offer is no longer valid, and withdraw it. And we can also nudge, which sends out a reminder email for whoever is next in line for signing. So that's what the post office looks like. Also a pretty clean UI and simple tool. The main idea here is that HR can go in, they can track ongoing processes, and they can see what happens with the documents that are in various states of signature. So just go through these to make sure I didn't forget anything. Yeah, we can nudge as mentioned, we can of course remove, and if we do withdraw, then a little pop-up replaces the signature link saying, unfortunately, this document is no longer available for signing. We have the post history, which can look something like this. And this is the detailed page view that we just looked at, which allows us to make sure that all the information is correct. When you do generate as a draft, instead of sending it out for signatures right away, like I just did, then an added benefit is that you can, of course, verify that the data is correct. Another thing you can do from within the post office is you can create a post manually. So it might be that you have a document from before that you don't need to generate from SuccessFactors, but it's perhaps an old employment contract of some sort. Then you can select an employee here, all data still read directly from SuccessFactors, and you can select specifically what type of document it is and who should sign it. So you can tweak these pre-configured signature processes to whatever need you might have, and then you upload one or more documents to send off for signatures. And again, because you're defining both who it belongs to and what type of document, it also means that the system knows where to place it when everything is said and done in the archive. When everything is signed, it gets a digital stamp like this. This is an example from one of our partners called Signicat. We also support DocuSign, and it verifies who is signed and is sort of the authentication, the digital authentication, proving that this document has been formally signed by everyone involved. So the last section is our document archive. And again, I will show you this in the system first. Hopefully you can now see my screen again. I'll just refresh this. So as mentioned, there is a button here also tied to the digital archive. The archive, like all the other parts of this solution, reads all its data from SuccessFactors. And if you're a user in SuccessFactors, you're an active employee, then you also exist in the archive. It looks like this. Again, I'm signed in now as the same user as before, Emily Davis, and she is a manager. So the top left is the drop down for the roles that I have in this solution. I am a manager. I have the option to view my own documents as well. And I have the content administrator, which is the sort of the chief admin role, which we'll look at in a little bit. And because I have that chief admin role, I also have the ability to purge. But within my manager dashboard, I can see my employment. So if I have more than one employment, I can move between them like you can in SuccessFactors. And I have the 2 active employees who report to me in SuccessFactors. One of them, Caroline Aiden, that we just tested with. Here we also have the folder structure. So this is the layered setup for the various documents you might have in your system. And this has 2 benefits. One is it's, of course, fully customizable. And the other is we can tailor permissions based on document type. So in addition to retrieving your roles from SuccessFactors and knowing what permissions you should have in that system, we can also tailor which documents should be viewable based on which authorizations you have in the archive. So perhaps so you can see level 8 and 9 here are 2 examples. This whole folder level 8 can contain documents that your manager cannot see. So let's say you have a complaint against a manager, then naturally it does not make sense for them to be able to see that. And they would then be placed within level 8 here, and we can tailor it to make sure that managers can see all documents except level 8, for example. And likewise, there might be some legal cases where an employee shouldn't be able to see documents that relate to their own employment for whatever reason. Then we can say, all right, well, they need to go into level 9. So only HR and manager can see those documents, but the employee themselves cannot. That's just two examples. So on the next segment here is the documents themselves. So if I maybe go to contracts, I'll show you that there are 2 listed. They will be listed by date. And there's some action buttons we can take, such as deletion, upload, download, and so on, towards the document sitting here. We can also dictate which actions are possible through permissions like before. On the right, we have the document preview, which gives us an idea of what the document looks like. We can full screen it. We have a data tab and history and so on to make sure that we can see which actions have been taken. And in the top right, we have the ability to search for documents. So the document search in the archive can be very, very specific based on folders. We can also add filtering and so on, because some archives will, of course, contain very, very many documents. And the ability, so the documents you're allowed to see will still be tied to your permissions. The last thing I'll show you in the archive is the purging tool. So I mentioned before that this particular user has what's called a content administrator. That role has the ability to see everything in the archive. And we typically recommend that maybe 2, maximum of 3 employees in a given company has this role. And it's allocated through SuccessFactors like everything else. That role has the ability to purge, and the purging tool consists of two segments. One is the rule building, and it allows you to create rules with names and folders, as well as filtering to later trigger for the sake of purging. So as a very basic example, this rule covers all personal documents in the archive. And when I click on preview, I can see the documents in the archive that follow this rule. If I'm happy with it, I can save it, and save rules can be found within the other part of the purging tool, which is the active purge action. So if I click on all personal documents again, and you can see the quantity of documents that have been found here, as well as the description if I hover this little information box. And from here, I can initiate the actual purging, so the permanent removal of documents sitting in the archive through this purge selected documents feature if I want to. Yes, the other one here, which I'll touch upon quickly, is the ability to restore deleted documents. You might have seen in the previous UI that I had the ability to delete a document individually from my own page. In effect, it removes it from view for everyone in the system, except for users who have this content administrator dashboard, and the content administrator can restore them back to their original location through this option here. So that's what that does. Only the content administrator can permanently purge documents from the system. Okay, so I know it's a bit of information overload. Let's see here. Just quickly get my slides back up. I'll go through this quickly again, just to make sure that I didn't leave anything out. You can select the employee on the left, like I showed you. In this screenshot here, you can see that Sandil Salo, he actually has 2 employments. So the archive supports multiple employments, meaning if a given user is manager perhaps only for one of Sandil's employments, then it's only those documents I can see. I cannot see the documents belonging to the other employment. So we respect that in the same way that SuccessFactors does. We have the common folder structure, which is then across the entire system to make sure that there's consistency in how the organization structures their documents. We have the actual list of documents in a chosen folder, as well as the actions we can take, the preview that we saw, and the search, and the ability to do a full screen view of the document that we currently selected. We read SuccessFactors data directly from the system, and it's live. So it means that if a position change happens in SuccessFactors, that will also be instantly reflected, both in permissions and also in the data associated with each document in the system. There's no double maintenance here. You can upload a document directly, and of course, it will then sit with the correct employee and the correct folder right away. And because we have all the information about this employee already stored in SuccessFactors, we can associate, sort of tag that document with that information automatically. It's not something you need to write in when you're uploading documents. We can do searches, like I mentioned before, and they can also do sort of Google-style searching, meaning you don't only have to search for titles or document types, but you can search for specific terms within a document. So if you know that maybe you're looking internally for someone who has competencies within a specific area, then you can search within CVs for a specific buzzword, as an example. Yeah, this is an example of the data page. So this is the metadata that we keep on each document to ensure that the permissions are respected and that it belongs to the right employees. And you can also put in a custom description field if you want to. The document structure that you looked at is customizable, like mentioned before. It is free for you to name and regulate through permissions however you want. But of course, we provide a best practice document structure based on the typical document needs that we've seen with our current clients. Yes, and then within SuccessFactors itself, we saw earlier that I clicked on this generate document link in order to get the UI for generating documents. We can also put in custom links from the employee page to locations in the archive to make the day-to-day life for HR a bit easier, as an example. So here, what we often do is we'll put in a display current contract button, and then instead of having to navigate to the archive and search up an employee, if you have the permission to view this link, what it means is you can just go here and it will take you to the most recent contract for that employee in the archive by itself, to save you that hassle of navigating. And we can make these links connect to any area of the archive. The purging I talked about already. You can set up rules with all sorts of filtering to make sure that they adhere to whatever local or global rules need to be followed. And an example is the all personal documents rule that we looked at earlier. So another aspect which I find very handy is that we want the archive to be the one source of truth for documents, but many of you probably have documents sitting in SuccessFactors as well. And what we do as part of the implementation is we set up these auto uploads, which is what we call it, when we move documents from SuccessFactors to the archive, so that if you have a segment or a portlet on your employee profiles where you upload certificates, for example, then we can make sure that whenever a certificate is uploaded to an employee profile in SuccessFactors, it's automatically transferred also to the archive to make sure that any document you have for an employee is stored in the archive as well. Likewise, we can do that from onboarding and also for employees coming in through recruiting. When they're hired, these documents are moved over automatically. In addition, it doesn't have to be just from SuccessFactors. So we have clients who have their payroll, for example, outside of SuccessFactors, and they, on a monthly basis, transfer their payslips directly into the archive without ever touching the SuccessFactors system. Then, for those of you who might have people analytics and reporting in SuccessFactors, the solution comes pre-built with two reports. One is to validate document dates. So we take the dates that we have on documents in the archive and we build a story report in SuccessFactors that you can view to keep track of your documents. And we also have a report for missing employee documents, which is handy to track, for example, if someone is lacking a particular certificate that they need to do their job, or perhaps make sure that every active employee has a valid contract. Just checking how we're doing for time. When it comes to setting up a new archive, some people might be a little bit intimidated by the migration effort. This slide is just to inform you that we have a tailored custom tool, so a mass upload tool, like we call it, which is specifically built to sort all the documents from your old archiving solution or wherever you might have your documents into this HR archive. So you might have documents stored in all manner of places, perhaps even in physical form, and through a template that you can fill in, we'll just feed that into our uploading tool, and it will sort everything into the digital archive for us. Yeah. So I think this last one is yours, Christina, if you wanted to just summarize. But other than that, that was HR Document Simplified. A lot of information in one go, I know. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. There might have been some in the chat while I've been talking. And those that we don't have time to address, we'll of course get back to you in an email. Yeah, other than that, Christina, did you want to mention something?
No, just this is a quick overview of dox42. Again, output types, template generation, etc. And I know this has been a lot. We will come back to the questions that have not yet been answered via email, and the recording will also be available if you want to rewatch and share. And other than that, I think, yeah, there's only to say thank you for the attention and for joining us. And if you have questions, you can also, of course, reach out to us directly. If you could jump to the next slide. Perfect. Here's our email addresses again. You can also book a meeting if you want to dive in deeper. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for presenting with me, Benjamin. And
Likewise.
yeah, you will hear from us soon.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.